The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
There's a new bar in town. Welcome to the Turnbuckle Arms, where the banter flows like wine and the topics are as fresh as an ice-cold pint. So pull up a chair, grab yourself a glass, and welcome your hosts, the Brew'd!
Right, welcome to the Turnbuckle Arms. My name's Nick Towers. I am the guest host this week. Thank you for joining us. And firstly, I'll just let everybody introduce themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, shout out. Who are you?
John.
I'm Lexi.
I'm Chris, Big Chucky T.
I'm the Grizz, and I'm still drunk from last night.
Good man. Everybody got a drink? Ready for the discussion?
Aye.
Sweet. So this week we are talking NXT.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's definitely some kind of brand confusion. Is it a third brand? Is it meant to be on par with Raw and SmackDown? Is it still developmental? If it is developmental, is it doing a shit job? What's the crack really? What's everybody's thoughts on NXT? You know, do you see it as a developmental? Do you see it as on equal footing as Raw and SmackDown, even though WWE don't? What's your thoughts really? I just want to sort of get everybody talking about that and see what you think about it.
Well, just want to bring up before we actually start the conversation, it's actually perfect that you bring this up now, considering that there's been news recently about NXT Evolve starting. That's apparently meant to be an actual developmental. So
what
this, this will be like a good conversation now if we throw this little wrench into the works.
Yeah, I've not heard about that. Okay. So if that comes out, then that should establish NXT as the third brand. Really, there shouldn't be any. Is it definitely set in stone, or is it just rumor mill at the minute?
Apparently, they've taped matches for it, so.
Okay.
I don't know who's involved exactly. I don't know. I've heard that Gabe Sapolsky, the actual owner and booker of Evolve, was a part of it. So, and Jeremy Borash, my boy.
Cool.
Nice.
So that is essentially all the news that I've heard of about it just now. But it sounds like it's. I mean, could the argument go as it's developmental for developmental?
Yeah. It's an interesting topic to bring up in the first place. Like, just to drop this on you, apparently 11 years ago today was the first ever NXT show, so it's really appropriate we're even having this conversation. So yeah, it would be nice to see something like the anniversary of it, almost to time it to the year next year, 12 years, to see how it's progressed. I mean, not to go too much into this right now, but I think ever since it's been on TV, since I think about, was it August 2019, you could argue it has been the third brand. It's left behind that developmental tag long ago, just by the sheer fact that it's had a 2-hour live television slot and the way it was positioned subsequently after that.
Definitely, especially in the first year when they were part of Survivor Series, and they were booked so strong on Survivor Series. And then like last year, lost track. Last year they weren't even mentioned, they weren't included, nothing like that. Probably due to like the whole global bastard and not being able to intermingle as much. But
that is a name. I'm using that. I'm using that from now on. Tower of Power.
I genuinely think that's from either Monkey Dust or Reeves and Mortimer. I know both of those things. Bastards. I can't. I'll ask Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith will know, but it is quite genius. I love that global bastard. I love it.
Organisation will take it over so slowly. And the global bastards. Yeah, I like that.
But so when NXT the first year after obviously it got on the USA Network, they included it in Survivor Series. They got booked strong. That was very strong. The following year, Ripley. Well, you had War Games and Survivor Series back to back, didn't you? And Ripley had those in weekend, literally pinning everyone and everyone within WWE kind of thing. And then
one of those things where people weren't against it either.
No.
Normally when you have someone pin everyone, like when Roman used to pin everyone, everybody was like, ew, no. But when Rhea Ripley did it, everyone was like, hell yeah, badass.
Yeah, why not? It's just, and then you had Keith Lee and Roman Reigns square up as well when Lee was part of NXT as the Survivor Series match. And then he had such a grandeur about him, he had such a presence about him that they've somehow wasted after his main call up. They obviously called him up to the main roster because of that. And
that's actually a really good conversation on top of a conversation. So why don't we just do it just now? Obviously, recently there's been sort of news coming out about Vince McMahon not getting some people. One of them being Keith Lee, and it's like, okay, so why did you have him, go toe to toe with Roman Reigns for 10 minutes or so Survivor Series? Then you called him up, and then you had him beat Randy Orton in like 8 minutes on pay-per-view, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't get it. And then now he's back into like below developmental right now. He's at that performance center, and then if you've ever seen that photo of Keith Lee with the performance center t-shirt on, and he just has that look at his face like, fuck my life.
Even that's a conversation. People going back down to NXT. Now, I agree that Keith Lee, that does seem like a demotion, especially as he's gone sub-basement level developmental now. But, we'll probably get onto this, but you want to talk about Finn Balor coming back. I want to put out that idea that it's not seen as a demotion now to go back to that brand. If anything, you're on there to support it. Keith Lee being the notable exception, I agree. And Otis was another talent that seems to have been soured on by Vinnie Mac. But that's an argument for a different time, like you said. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. Like, what do people think about returning to that brand now? It used to be seen as a bit of a failure, someone like Zack Ryder / Matt Cardona. But now, what do we think?
I'm all for it. Not gonna lie.
That's the thing. It depends how you view it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a third brand. It's not a demotion.
It's a perspective thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no way that you can say that NXT is a developmental brand anymore because of what it's achieved in its short time, not only on air but also on the network as well. It's like the indie promotion WWE wants to be, especially when it was on the network. Yeah. I've said for years it's the best brand that they've put out there. I've seen them on the first NXT tour in the UK back in 2015. I laughed so hard that night, mainly because of the fans and the interaction and stuff. And I've said for years that I don't want certain talents to go up to the main roster because I don't like how they're going to be treated. Mm-hmm. Like, there's two examples. The first one is Shinsuke Nakamura. He got called up.
My heart.
He had an absolutely barnstormer and won the Royal Rumble, and it was AJ versus Nakamura, and people got involved, and it just turned out to be a match. And we know what they can achieve when they're just told, go out there and have fun. And also Aleister Black, like in terms of a dominant champion for NXT, he was quite a dominant force. But he was also not unwilling to work with talents that are up and coming. See the Velveteen Dream,
Lars Sullivan.
That was really, really nice. And he's gone to the main roster, and I can't tell you what brand he's on.
Mm-hmm. I can't tell you where he's used. That's because Vince McMahon also doesn't get him. So apparently he's sitting there on the sidelines healthy every week, ready to go, and Vince McMahon's like, don't get it.
But this is the thing, like, this is the difference between when Vinnie Mac has a say in it and when he doesn't have a say in it. Because if I ask the three of you, which brand are you more likely to watch out of Raw, SmackDown, NXT, which one are you going for?
NXT.
For me...
205 Live.
There's always one to be an awkward twat.
And it's always me.
Yeah, sorry, lad. But for me, if you're talking what is developmental, I think NXT UK is developmental because they're getting people from the Brit Indies, the European Indies, and they're putting them on there and they're giving them the chance to learn, and not only learn, but learn from one of the greatest of all time in Shawn Michaels. and be nurtured that way before they go up to the performance centre. You know, there's arguments for and against that idea. You could look at Pete Dunne, for example. Pete Dunne was at one point the longest reigning NXT UK champion. He's gone to NXT and he's sort of faded away a little bit in the background, and that global bastard, to use Nick's term, put him out of the shelf for a little bit, in terms of he physically couldn't be on NXT because he couldn't live in America.
Yeah,
and now he's come back, he's made that impact. What was that, Chris?
He had the tag titles at the time that he had to come back here, so
yeah,
they had to scramble for a storyline just to get the belts off of them.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not getting into that because that's a different conversation for a different day. But now that Pete Dunne has come back, he's pretty much going to the front again. But it says something about the brand when Aleister Black goes to creative whatever and says, I don't want to be on Raw, I don't want to be on SmackDown, put me on NXT.
And they're like, no.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Kevin Owens also requested to go to NXT and they were like, no. And it's like, what do you mean no? Like, you're having me do absolutely nothing, but then you won't let me go and do something where I can actually do something. It's like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, remember his react when he turned up at War Games not like a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Owens was amazing. That was the pop that he should be getting week in, week out.
Exactly.
On the big boy shows.
Big boy shows.
Yeah. So I just had to remind you of the times.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for a while though. If they're going to run with NXT as a third brand, do they just let people go? Because obviously we're told via dirt sheets, via podcasts, via whatever you read, whatever you see, if you choose to go down that road, that WWE are at war. They're at war with AEW, they're at war with Impact, they're at war with NJPW, whatever. Why wouldn't you be doing everything to make your employees happy?
Yeah.
So when somebody goes to them and says, listen, I don't want to be on this brand anymore, can I go back to NXT? Don't be an outright no. Okay, well, we'll see if it's possible.
What ideas do you have if you were to do this? Like, just listen to a couple of the talents and be like, I've had this idea, and then be like, I don't know if it works on this brand. May work elsewhere, as in like NXT or Raw or whatever. And then just like do that accordingly. It's just they're keeping people tied down so much that like it's really makes a lot of people really unhappy. And it's like, you know, like as the Simpsons said, a happy worker is a busy worker. So
yeah,
very true.
If you're unhappy, you'll just, you know, phone it in.
Yeah, and like what you've got to be careful of, obviously, is the increased amount of competition. You've just mentioned AEW, NJ. We all know what's been happening, you know, over there. And yeah, obviously, you know, we might get on to some people that might be jumping ship, you know, so they've got to be careful. And like Lexi said, like in a real life workplace, if someone was unhappy, instead of firing them or letting them go, you might even consider moving teams or departments. And that's often sick, isn't it? So like you said, why not keep your employees happy by switching around? However, just to play devil's advocate, you don't want to end up in a situation where the talent start dictating everything, because we've seen how that goes as well sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I understand that. It's about finding that balance, though, isn't it? More than anything else.
Pretty much.
And if it makes sense in terms of the storyline, then yeah, why not? Because you think about it, Kevin Owens could become, you know, NXT champion. He could go for the the North American title. He could go for the tag belts if he wanted. He could go for the Dusty Classic if he wanted to, and he'd be welcomed back with open arms. I mean, you were saying before about the pop that Kevin Owens got. What about that pop when Fandango came out and he was challenging for the not Fandango, Tyler Breeze, and he was challenging for the
North American
title. Like, I lost my shit. I was just like, he's back, he's home, keep him there. and they didn't.
And
then the match he had as well, like, was incredible and not what Tyler Breeze normally does on the main roster. Sorry, cut you off there, Nick.
Sorry, man. I was just saying, because he was like the gatekeeper of NXT. He was the guy that you went through to get a title shot. He was held in that high esteem when they brought like Liger in. He fought Tyler Breeze. You know, he was the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
He was Prince Pretty. It was his house. You got through him before you got a title shot, and the fans remember that. And the fans adored him for it.
So again, not to play devil's advocate, but if these faces keep coming back, does that give a chance for some new emerging talent to even have a spot on NXT? And this is the whole argument, isn't it? That everyone wants to see these famous faces, but yeah, maybe you do need that developmental brand to bring someone new, because if I was a lower card NXT talent, I'd be pretty pissed off by seeing like someone like Balor come back and take that championship spot, you know, which is going to deny me something else as well. And that's not necessarily my opinion, but as a talent, I might consider that.
Yeah, I think that's what you need to do. Sorry. That's what you need to do. It's maybe rotate talent, you know, have them be there for a couple of months, maybe 6 months tops. Have them run a storyline, and then like you can maybe do this with, like, say, Finn Balor just now. He is the NXT champion and has been for a while, and then you have people from the main roster coming down and being, "Oh, I'm as good as you. In fact, I've beaten you before." Blah blah blah. And so I want some gold around my waist, and this seems like the only way to do it. And then, you know, Joe Schlub like wrestles in a storyline with Finn Balor for a couple of months. Balor beats him. Right, he's off. Right, okay, bring somebody else down. So like it's things like Aleister Black like for a couple of months, Kevin Owens for a couple of months, and then like just kind of that thing. It gives them something to do. It keeps them relevant, and then maybe by the time they come back up to the main roster, oh, we've found something for you now. Judging on their their appearances on NXT.
I also think it's a good way of getting the rub, though, because I figured Balor came down. He's holding the title until Cross is 100% ready again. And he's going to drop the title back to Cross, who never lost it in the first place. Established again as a dominant champion because he beat Finn for it. It's having trust in WWE to find the balance to use the established guys against, you know, the guys that are coming through kind of thing. So Finn can give the rub to Cross. I thought, well, hopefully at some point Ciampa will give the rub to Thatcher. So you've got to find those partnerships between the established and the ones that are going to be the next main eventers.
Ciampa kind of already has, to be honest, because Thatcher won the fight. Yeah. And then now that they're a tag team, I actually think that's a good place for them, because they just seem to not do very much other than fight each other. So them being a tag team now is quite good. So that gives them something to do. That gives them something to aspire to.
Yeah.
Just picking up on the Finn Balor thread then, I don't know if it's true or not, but do you think that WWE's plans were put on hold for Balor? Because at one point Balor was challenging Walter. He was going to go for the UK title. Yeah. And obviously that has possibly been forgotten about for now. It's been put on the back burner. So if the Global Bastard hadn't have come along and done something and stopped everything, do you reckon that he would have gone to NXT UK or what?
That's a good shout, yeah, possibly.
Probably not forever. I think it's kind of the thing we're talking about, of he probably went down there for a period to do something.
Yeah.
And then when all that got kind of kiboshed, it was like, right, well, back to NXT. And then he kind of was just the right person at the right place at the right time. And when Cross got injured, they put the belt on Balor.
Yeah. I mean...
Sorry.
No, I was just about to say, like, from memory, like, Balor was supposed to go against Walter in October, I think. It was Dublin that they were supposed to go for.
I think it was March, actually.
Oh,
originally.
Was it?
Yeah.
And then it was rescheduled, wasn't it?
Yeah, to October, and then that didn't happen.
Yeah. But, I mean, you know, we sit here and we go, well, NXT UK, or I've said that NXT UK is the developmental for NXT or whatever. But then it's got its own issues, like how do you solve a problem like Walter? Who takes the title? Who's going to be big enough? Is it going to be somebody like Balor that's established on NXT, having a really good run with his second reign on the NXT title? Who's going to take it? Who's going to stop him? And what's it going to take? It's one of them, isn't it? I mean, you know, I don't know how you solve that. But there we go. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm thinking like the way they're pushing him, Rampage Brown may be the man.
Okay.
But I guess that's
surely like Bate would be the long term answer, unless Brown takes it off of Walter and then you get a Rampage Brown. Is Bate on TV again yet? Tyler Bates, is he back on TV?
He showed up within the pandemic era, for lack of a better term, although I hate that term that everyone keeps saying. But yeah, he has showed up since the return of NXT UK.
Right, because he's the way that I would go. If I can get him and Walter again, another banger, but he wins this time.
But picking up on that, Tyler Bate has pissed off Vince McMahon because Tyler Bate chose to go on holiday rather than defend the title.
Yeah.
So has Vinnie Mac forgotten about it? Has he let it go? Has somebody had a word in his ear and said, listen, this is the way to go? He's a younger guy. What Tyler Bate can do is just, amazing kind of thing. You need to take another gamble on him because at the time he was 19.
Yeah.
And he'd...
To be honest, I feel like the conversation kind of went... Tyler Bate decided to go on holiday instead of defending the NXT UK title, and then Vince McMahon's probably like, what the hell's an NXT UK title? Who the hell's Tyler Bate?
What's Tyler Bate?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
But again, volumes to how many opportunities there are to get talent over, and like we said, there's talent that's getting wasted, and there's so many chances, especially with the crossover. I don't watch a lot of NXT UK, and I'm not sure what the rules for competing are, but I'm pretty sure you could get, like you had obviously Undisputed Era versus Imperium. I'm pretty sure you could have more crossover, and like I would love to see that. Like we all know how much people enjoy stuff like Avengers Infinity War because of the crossover appeal, and I would love to see more of that. Like I know everyone's not her biggest fan, but when Charlotte was challenging Rhea Ripley, again, that did great. It did a good service, I think, to the brand, if not, what actually happened. So I think it was great that they had that as a third belt to challenge for after the Rumble. I love that idea, and again, that brings us back to the point, I suppose, that you can't consider it a developmental brand when it's now a viable third option. But I just get excited every time I think, wouldn't that be cool to see whoever face whoever, and this is what they've got with those essentially 4 brands, counting Raw, SmackDown, NXT and UK. Yeah, let's just do it. Let's have people travel all over the place. Not right now, obviously, Global Bastard in session, but you get my point, and I'd love to see more of that personally.
But there's picking up on that thread, the NXT UK Women's Champion, Kaylee Ray, has basically called out Bayley.
Well,
and because there's a picture that Bayley put on Twitter, if you haven't seen it, and it's basically every belt that Bayley has held, and Kaylee Ray goes, "You're missing one. Come and try and take it."
Which I love. Yeah, that's perfect.
And the fact that people I'm going to use the word forgotten brands, because obviously NXT UK can be quite easily forgotten in terms of the American audience because it's only on the network, as far as I know. The fact that somebody from that forgotten brand has gone, you're not a Grand Slam champion, you haven't won mine.
Yeah.
And also as well, things like, Pete Dunne was on a pre-show when he was champion, and he said, I'll take on anyone, give me Brock Lesnar. I'm still waiting for Brock Lesnar's response. And I'm like this, please do, when you're ready, son. It was great.
Pete going like that to Brock's fingers.
And big sausage fingers. God, good luck.
Could you imagine it? Could you imagine him going to suplex fucking Pete Dunne, and Pete Dunne just stands up and looks at him and's like...
Our friends over at Powered 4 TV are giving listeners to this podcast an incredible 50% off your first month when you sign up to powered4.tv and use the promo code JONNERS. Powered 4 TV are one of the leading on-demand streaming services in the UK, with tons of shows from over 20 wrestling promotions from around the UK and the US, including TNT Extreme, Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, DNA Pro Wrestling, Full Force Wrestling, Ignite Wrestling, and so many more. There's also plenty more to enjoy, including an incredible archive of classic matches, live layers with William Eva, podcasts, and so much more. Sign up to Powered 4 TV today and save 50% off your first month. Just use the promo code JONNERS.
Here's one for you though. If NXT is the third brand, why do people just leave it and get promoted up to the main two shows?
Some people don't want to go.
No, but why is it classed as a promotion? You know, it's always, we get it driven into us that they're being called.
You've always got to say SmackDown and Raw are always going to be like considered the flagship shows, aren't they? You know, it's always seen as a promotion, even if it's not. You know, and that's what we're saying. It's fine to come down to NXT. Seemingly, it's not seen as a demotion, but it's a good use of talent. I guess, yeah, it's always going to be seen as that, isn't it? It's always going to be considered that for a long time now. Because, so I was going to say, only because of the position on these networks. Like you're talking about Fox, which is so big in America, you know, and thanks, Chris. And then, so yeah, that. I think that's always going to be considered a promotion. I would genuinely love to know as well. Like I know things come out about the pay, but I would love to know if there is any increase in pay per like contract change. You know, what show you're on, does that dictate your pay packet? I would love to know that. You know, and then you could consider promotion.
Read something a few weeks ago about it because there was something doing the rounds. I think again, just basic numbers from what I've seen online. You know, take everything with a pinch of salt. But the NXT average is just over, or just around about 100k a year. That's your average on NXT. You're probably talking near the potentially 300k on the main shows plus merch.
Yeah,
that's part of the reason why Trey didn't want to go to NXT was because he was getting paid so little. So it may not be getting paid as much in Impact right now, but with all the independent merch and all that he's doing now, I think it worked out that he would probably get paid more to stay in Impact and do what he's doing now as opposed to going to NXT. But whereas Dez and Wentz obviously kind of went the other way, and it's like, yeah, well, this is a building block kind of thing. So
job satisfaction as well, though, isn't it? Do you sacrifice your money to be able to enjoy going to work every day, or do you get a shed load of cash and just fucking get up in the morning and dread going to work?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think 2 points picking up on what Nick's just said. There's a quote from Eddie Guerrero from the Monday Night Wars documentary that's like, I woke up one day and I didn't want to go to work, and the minute you start thinking of what you do for a living as work is the minute there's something wrong. You should love what you do, and that's always sort of stuck with me.
If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if you get a degree in what you love, you'll never work a day in your life because that sector's usually not hiring. Differently. Yeah, also as well, look at how SmackDown was perceived for years. Yeah. If you go back to the original brand split, you know, everyone was like, well, Raw's the main show, Raw's the top show. And no matter how it's portrayed on the network, SmackDown made Raw its bitch for a good year and a half in terms of booking and everything. And they forget that. Like, they forget conveniently that SmackDown was the program that you would choose if you were a wrestling fan.
Have you ever heard that story about Paul Heyman when he was in 2002 when he was the general manager? So I think obviously he kind of very much helped 2002 SmackDown, but he would sit in on conference calls for the Raw writers to see what they were up to, and he just accidentally one time forgot to like plug his phone in, so his phone kind of went off of like, low battery, and then Vince McMahon was like, there's somebody else on our call.
No way.
That's eventually how he got found out.
Shit. That's ace. Could you imagine somebody doing that now? Like, oh, but it just goes to show that, like, you know, that competition between the two brands was very, very real. And now you've got NXT, and what they're struggling against is not to be seen as the second best brand or whatever. They're struggling to lose that tag of developmental. Mm-hmm. But when you go back and you look at the first NXT program, what you've got between then and now is night and day. Yeah. Just like with the SmackDown and with Raw and stuff, there's no, you know, so for me, you know, it's easy to sit here and say, well, you know, SmackDown back in the day was seen as the B brand, blah, 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 blah. You've got the same situation repeating itself, haven't you?
Yeah, and just like, I completely agree with that, by the way. So it's just a matter of time until the perception changes, I think. But you've got to remember, there's something about being the littlest dog in the fight. There's something about having a chip on your shoulder. And SmackDown, I know, you know, going back to the Paul Heyman thing, he felt the same. They wanted to beat them. They wanted to be better. And while they feel like they're the underdogs, that's going to give them that fire, you know, to be better. And I truly believe that. And I think there's some pride. And let's not forget as well, fans can be fickle. And they want to kind of like the not the mainstream thing. They might want to like the underdogs. So there's So there's a big audience, isn't there, that likes it because of what it is. So the moment it becomes on par, it becomes cliche. Or, you know, au-fait, I guess. And it's, do you know what I mean? There's a talk, isn't there, there's a theory that people want to get behind it only for so long before then they'd be like, you know, this is the same now.
There's a sort of saying of, they want you to do well, they just don't want you to do very well.
Yes.
Doing very well. Not interesting.
It's like the shiny new toy kind of thing. And I feel like AEW has went through that as well. It's like the first couple of weeks, they were, if not a million, very close to it. Yeah. Now they kind of have like 800,000 every week, which is respectable. But it's just that kind of thing of, man, you were pulling millions like at least a couple of times, and it's like, so what happened to that other 200,000 that kind of decided to not come back?
But don't forget though, NXT is on at the same time, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Because you know you have what's deemed now the Wednesday Night Wars, which is a different issue for a different day. But having that direct competition, because I don't think there's anything on when SmackDown or Raw's aired in terms of wrestling.
There used to be Monday Night Football, which was a massive thing, you know, in America, obviously, and then you have like the NBA Finals at points. But yeah, it's a good point, and it's a sign of faith in NXT and the brand to go up against arguably the most legitimate competition WWE's years, isn't it? You know, it's good on them.
But picking up on that, the Monday Night Football and the NBA and stuff, it's not consistent. It's it's, you know, whereas AEW is consistently running against, seasonal. You know, so I see what you're saying, and I agree with everything that you said, but obviously we've got to remember the
factors. Different things affecting it, like I say, with the different sports and stuff. But yeah, I think with that's a sidebar. Should NXT change nights when it changed to Tuesdays or Thursday?
Yes, please. Oh my god,
and I've lost count.
Trying to watch AEW and NXT in one day is more of a chore than a pleasure sometimes. Because I always watch AEW first. Because, I mean, if you ask me, it's just a superior product of the two right now on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
But, look, even when we sit down and talk about it, we being Turn and Keel, one of the latest podcasts on the Wrestling with Johners Network, if you can get through the first 3 hours and then get to the talk of NXT, you'll realize that most of the time NXT TV is kind of boring, man. Like, every takeover is exceptional, but a lot of like weekly TV is just dull, and it's just like people that are on it, and you're just like, I don't care about these people. Like, give me more Johnny Gargano. Like Gargano's in like 5 segments on most NXT shows. Like, right, give me another one. Give me 6 because Johnny Gargano is so goddamn entertaining. I could just watch Gargano for 2 hours. And
the main event is normally banging, but everything up to the main event can be a chore.
Yeah, because I mean, this week, last Wednesday's the most recent episode of NXT. There was about a period of about 30-40 minutes where it was just squash matches. And it was just, I mean, yeah, I know they have their place and all that, but it's just like, right, can I get like some substance here, some storytelling, anything like that, just to kind of like keep my attention? Because there's a lot of times where I find myself like grabbing my phone, and if I wasn't taking notes for my other show, I would probably just be like playing some stupid ass game on my phone or something like that. With AEW, it keeps the attention more.
Yeah. Oh, no, I definitely agree with you. But are they squash matches or are they developmental matches?
A little from column A, a little from column B.
It's a really good point. And I know we kind of, well, Nick, brought this up when we were discussing the format for this episode, but I wanted to talk about the average age of the champions they've had. And like, I looked this up. So I've got Bo Dallas is the youngest ever at 22/23 because his birthday was before it actually aired, I think. So they counted it as 23. And then Bobby Roode at 39 years old. And, there's a whole argument for people coming in like Bobby Roode, who arguably shouldn't have had to go through the development of NXT. And people can't see I'm doing the quotes.
I think the way you see it, they can tell the developmental.
But yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? You've got someone like AJ went straight to the main roster, let's say. So
do you know the story behind that though?
No.
So when AJ Styles went to the main roster, SmackDown, Raw, whatever he first went to, he went to Vince McMahon and he said they need to go to NXT first. Anybody else coming into this company will struggle.
Yeah.
They need to go to NXT first to learn the WWE way. Again, more use of bunny ears for those of you that are just listening. So what sort of excuse the pun here, but impact did AJ go into Vince McMahon and saying, look, other talent will struggle to learn and they need to have that little bit of time on a different roster, and that's why the likes of Austin Aries, the likes of Bobby Roode, the likes of Shinsuke Nakamura all went to NXT first. So they had that time to develop and change their style slightly.
I guess my argument is why make him champion necessarily, Roode? It felt like a weird move for me to make him NXT champ, at the time. And I just think, you could bring in these guys, they learn the style, and I know it's realistic that they don't lose, but I don't think you have to make everyone that kind of comes through like champ for a little while and then move on to someone else. Do you know what I mean? It seems
look at Bianca Belair though.
Yeah.
Like Bianca Belair and what was that, Grace? She sucks.
Oh yeah, major.
Yeah.
She cost me money, god damn it.
Oh, is that the only reason? Jesus Christ, mate.
No, I didn't like her before that, and then now I don't like her more. That she was eliminated from the Rumble. We all seen the photo.
Yes,
we seen her feet touch the goddamn floor. Rhea Ripley won. Give me my money, Skybet.
But yeah, like there's a whole lot of talent on NXT that have been called up. Like
Damian Priest.
Damian Priest, has he been called up?
He's on main roster now. He's on Raw.
Yeah, he gets to hang about with that Bad Rabbit. Naughty Rabbit. I think that's his name.
That shows you how long it's been since I last watched the product. But, look at the likes of Gable and Jordan. Yeah. They were called up way, way too soon, in my opinion. Nia Jax, I'll be honest with you, Nia Jax was only called up because she had Eva Marie next to her. Mm-hmm. And next to Eva Marie, Nia Jax looked good. Sorry, Nia. I'm so sorry. So sorry.
Don't be. She's terrible.
you know. Yeah, but I've got to fly the flag because I spoke really positively about her on the Grappuccino podcast, which is another new podcast that's joined the With John's podcast network.
Mention her hole.
Yeah. But yeah, I
Can I open this bottle and save my goddamn life?
There's a lot of people that have been called up too early. Apollo Crews was one of them.
Yes.
You know,
that is a very good show.
The Forgotten Sons, if they're still together, they were called up.
They're not. One of them's canned. One of them's canned, and one's on Raw, and the other is in Limbo.
There you go. You see. I'm just trying to think who else that like I can think of that was called up way too soon. Like
someone or Elias.
Oh no,
he works better. He works better on the main roster, I reckon.
Yeah,
they called it right.
It did take time, though. I would say
it did, but that reaction, I think, in terms of his morale, to get that reaction that he got, because it was vile at times. Like the crowd reaction was just when you've got when you've got people chanting "drift away" at you, and it's not even, it's not done in like a you suck Kurt Angle kind of thing. It was real, it was legit, it was vicious at times. So putting him on the main roster, yes, it's taken a while, but look at other talent, look at things like The Rock. That took a while to get to that level.
Yeah.
So
I think what we've seen then is there's not enough time, or there's too much time and too much talent maybe to allow people to find their niche then. Like you make a really good point about The Rock. Everyone knows Triple H, Austin, arguably, like they all had time, didn't they? And perhaps we live in this like knee-jerk reaction, I suppose, mile-a-minute ADD society where, basically if someone doesn't get over straight away, they're out, which is awful, but that's what it seems like.
I mean, look at the New Day, for example. You could argue the same thing's happening with them. When I first saw the promos for the New Day, I was like, where are they going with this? Is this potentially borderline racist? Oh my God, what the fuck are they doing? And it came, and they were annoying. And over the years, I've grown to love the New Day. I'm still not over the fact that they're split. Genuinely am. I loved the fact that they were backstage at the Royal Rumble together as the unit. I love the fact that their attires still match and everything. But you think about it, each one of them, if they were booked right, could legitimately hold one of the main titles on the main roster. Nick's like, nope.
Not
well, two of them maybe.
Yeah, I don't. Creed, Xavier's awesome. Off the chart, the guy's awesome. But there's no way Vinnie Mac is elevating him into the main event in any way, shape, or form if he wasn't associated with the New Day. He'd have been sacked long ago if he wasn't part of the New Day.
Yeah,
wasn't he kind of on the chopping blocks just before the New Day?
Think so, yeah.
Possibly, yeah. But I mean, if you believe the rumours, Big E, former NXT champion, I think he was the second ever one, was he? Was he the first or the second one?
Yeah.
There's talk of him being pushed now and stuff like that. So it does take time, I mean, it's 10 years ago now since Big E debuted on the main roster, which is frightening. Where the fuck has that time gone?
I just figured it out. This is why I can't open it. Fucking hell. I sat here for about 5 minutes trying to open this bottle and just found out that I need to do something. I'm an idiot. Anyway,
for those of you listening at home, I genuinely thought that Grizz was fucking about with a microphone.
Me too.
So I'm so glad I'm not alone.
It's a little bit of the bubbly.
Oh, nice one. Anyway, sorry. As you do, carry on.
I broke it again. Well, yeah, like to kind of go back to that, like before the New Day, Xavier was doing absolutely nothing. I mean, he was on like main event every week, feuding with Brodus Clay over his theme music. So, as we kind of alluded to, the fact that like, he was probably on the chopping blocks because, as they say, their favorite saying, the creative has nothing for you, and creative definitely had nothing for him. So I feel like the New Day definitely saved like I would say probably in some way he saved all three of their careers. There you go.
There we go.
Crazy to think Sophie was in that position now. When you look back and think, they had run out of things for him to do. And it's kind of crazy to me that, that he was in that position where it's the classic thing of lumping people together into a stable and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know? But it just makes me laugh. But like I said, they've got to be wary as we just go back to this point to say, you can't just do nothing with people because there is an alternative now. You know, they've got to be really careful now with like good use of talent, and they've certainly got enough shows. You know, we've already seen enough people jump over to AEW and possibly even back to Impact. And another new show coming on the Wrestling with John's network, Bear and Chucky D Wrestler Recap, we would cover. We're going to discussing the talent jump and how so far it's mostly been one way, but there's a chance to go back the other way now as well. So we'll see when that happens. Who will be the first? But my point is, it's difficult to believe a talent like Kofi was ever in that position, and you've got to think with 4 or so shows, how is that even a thing? You know, how does it get to that point? Is there too much talent hoarding, arguably across AEW and WWE? Even so, like it gives people a job, but as you keep saying, like unless you're working, you're not happy, and you've got to think NXT is a real opportunity for these talents to do something with it on live TV now. So if I wasn't happy, I would be picking to go back there right now. You're on TV, you're on a 2-hour live show. Yeah, it's no longer developmental, so keep people happy. Like I said, give them what they want and go back there.
Can Ricochet just go back, please?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, he doesn't look happy either, and like that's the thing.
Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy, just put them all on NXT. Just let them 3 have each week. I'll be happy.
Yeah, or get them in some sort of stable.
And Andrade as well. Fatal 4-ways: Ricochet, Andrade, Black, Murphy, sorted.
That was another one, wasn't it? That was another one that was named in the list of people that Vinnie Mac doesn't understand. And I do feel a bit sorry for him, to be fair, because he gave up a lot in terms of his heritage back home in Mexico and stuff. And, for those of you that don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but he demasked purposefully to go to NXT. So he sort of, not shunned, but he decided that he didn't want to be the masked wrestler anymore for WWE. And, he had an okay title reign. I was never fully sold on him. I think, again, he was called up too soon, if I'm honest.
Yeah, maybe a little.
He met Charlotte, so, winning.
Yeah, he did. And some of the things they post on Instagram, their workouts are just like... but yeah, I don't, for me, and I've said this a lot all the time, I do not understand how NXT can get it so right when they're in the same company as Raw and SmackDown.
Vinnie Mac's not involved.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, but how much influence does Vinnie Mac have on NXT?
Bare minimum, I would have thought.
Yeah, probably for good reason.
Yeah, but now that it's on TV, he's got his ear on it, isn't he? Even if he can't do anything about it, he's certainly going to be paying more attention to it.
He just stand against the door with a glass up against the door, like,
I can hear what you're booking.
Yeah.
What the hell is a Gargano?
Adam Cole, he's too short. No, he loves Cole, I'm sure.
He bet bloody had to. Like I said, and I said this again on Grappuccino, if they handled Adam Cole correctly, they have got the next Shawn Michaels on their hands.
But they will.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I know what's gone on in terms of the Undisputed Era. it would be interesting to see whether he goes to a different brand on his own or he takes some of his stablemates with him. It would be interesting.
I was going to say, there's certain people now that seem like they're there for life, isn't it? Gargano, Ciampa, arguably Cotton.
Ciampa's gone on record, though, hasn't he? Like, Ciampa's gone on record and basically turned around and said, I don't ever want to leave NXT.
He's got 2-3 years left, and he doesn't want to have to re-establish himself on the other 2 shows. For fans who don't know who he is, he doesn't want to have to spend a year re-establishing himself and waste, of his last few years. So it was quite a day where he is.
I mean, I'm still waiting for him to get Goldie back. I think that whole run with that title was absolutely phenomenal. I don't think it hurts the title. I don't think it hurts the brand. Hi, Kiddo. I think you're Belle. Hi.
You're correct.
Hi, Belle. I don't think it hurts the brand to have him constantly going for it and lose it and then go back down the card a little bit and then work his way back up. I mean, for me, that's very reminiscent of the old system, the Attitude Era system, where, you went out the title picture for a while and stuff like that. One question I will put to you, though, guys, is do you think that switching to the 2-hour format has hurt NXT?
Yes.
Or not?
It's hurt if it wants to be the developmental. I don't think it could be the third brand and stay at an hour. I think it would be 2 hours if it was going to be taken seriously as a third brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too, isn't there? You need to showcase that talent, I should say. You need 2 hours to do it. Of course, it's not really 2 hours, is it? In reality, it's a lot less. So yeah, I agree.
I mean, don't get me wrong, but one of the things that I used to like about NXT when it was just an hour was the fact that you didn't see everybody every week, which means that when you saw whoever, let's just say Nikki Cross, for example, when you saw Nikki Cross, you appreciated seeing them more, and I think that's something that's lost now.
That's kind of what I was going to say, to be honest. I do think that the 2 hour thing, sometimes you're getting people that you would only see on a special occasion. Like the NXT champion wouldn't be on NXT every week, and now Balor is literally there all the time saying that he's a cat and stuff like that. But also I feel as if part of this is kind of what I alluded to earlier with the whole it being up against AEW at the same time, and the 2 of them being on the same nights, because I want to just try and get everything out of the way to avoid spoilers and all that stuff. So I will watch it all on the Thursday, and that's like most of my night. Like it's literally being coined in this house, Wrestle Thursdays. Because so some other half knows that I need to be left for upwards of 4 hours to watch it all. But I feel like, all that being said, like you kind of hit the nail on the head with that. Like when it was 1 hour, it was special when you seen somebody important. Like you wouldn't see the NXT champion for about 3 weeks, and then when you seen it, you were like, oh well, shit's about to go down now. The champ is here.
Willie Roo's going to make an appearance.
I know. Oh man, I can't wait to hear that theme song again until it gets put on Spotify. So it's that whole kind of thing where it's like sometimes absence does make the heart grow fonder. And with the 2 hours, like there's a lot of people that's like, oh, I'm getting a bit sick of seeing you.
They've still got the roster though, where they could do that if they wanted to, but it's more like it's in combat, not combat. It's more like it's in competition with AEW. I think there was a stat where before it went into that direct competition, there was 1 title match on NXT TV within a 12-month period, and then within that first 12 months of going up against AEW, I think they had 6 world title matches on TV.
I'm school. I like only seeing belts defended, ideally on pay-per-views, and it's a really good shout, because now they get into hot shotting, don't they, to try and beat them every week possibly, and you don't want to go down that whole WCW, late WCW era of doing stuff on TV just to beat them in the ratings. it is interesting because I see what you're saying. Like the hour is ideal, and especially if everyone's a bit burnt out by the amount of wrestling content there is, which there is literally hours and hours per week. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like just to go back to this whole entire conversation, everything that's brought us to this point where we're not considering a development brand is like a perfect combination of elements to lead to this point. You've got the talent realizing that they don't have to be promoted to be happy. You've got the competition of AEW, going up directly against it. And then finally, you've got the idea that to be a live television show, you need established stars like a Finn Balor, ideally on there, so people know what they're seeing as first-time watchers. So I don't think it's got to this point almost like by plan. It's almost organically happened if you think about some of the external factors into it. You've got employee happiness, like we said, as well. So it's really interesting to me about how it's ended up in this position. Doesn't seem to be anyone's long-term plan. It's just kind of happened, which is very cool in my mind. Actually, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
A victim of its success.
Pardon, sorry?
What, sorry?
Become a victim of its success.
Yes. Yeah.
That successful, that popular, they had to try and elevate it.
Yeah. And how do you do that while keeping that unique personality? And that's the whole thing, isn't it? And like we said, what point does it become like the other shows and people don't want to watch it? Keep it away from it, keep the audience. But we're all seeing with someone like arguably the Vaudevillains how their act might go over in a certain audience and not over a mainstream audience like might watch Raw. And again, that's back to that, I want to say, indie fan mentality that might watch NXT, that might be a bit more appreciating of something a little more out there or different, So it's really interesting, isn't it? You don't want to lose that audience that is ready to back something different, rather than the same audience that backs the Cena's, Reigns, and someone who looks like a wrestler. There's the quotes again.
Wrestler.
Sports entertainer.
Sorry, Vincent.
He went there.
What the hell is a turnbuckle arms?
It was me. It was me all along, damn it.
I'm forewarning, if I just randomly vanish, my phone's on like 4%, so I do apologise to everybody listening or watching, and you guys and girls. But yeah, just forewarning you, I might just poof.
F's in the chat for Nick's phone.
I blame Grid for turning up there.
Yeah,
is it an idea then to go to last orders?
Yeah, I think it's time.
All right then.
What is? I've totally forgotten it now because I'm stressing about my phone dying. What we're talking about on last orders?
Was it not Elimination Chamber matches? Because Elimination Chamber is later on tonight, live on the WWE Network.
Tonight, 2 p.m.
Whatever it is. 2 p.m. I wish, mate. Christ, that would have been my weekend sorted.
Right. Well, go on then, Chris.
Favorite match? Well, favorite one.
Well, the one that definitely comes to mind first is the one where Santino and Daniel Bryan were down to the final two for the World Heavyweight Championship, and Santino came that close to winning when he had the Cobra on Daniel Bryan, and that whole place erupted. 1, 2, kick out. Oh, but just the selling of that, and then like the end of the match where Bryan had the label lock on Santino, and then there was even that point where Santino kind of rose up and everyone's like, oh my god, he's gonna break out of this, and then finally tapped out. It was like, like that one last little smidgen of build to just like, oh no.
That was legitimately amazing. I remember seeing that and just the reaction, just the vibe. You just got sucked into it so much and it's like you're looking back on it thinking it was Santino, for God's sake. Why was so invested? The guy's awesome, but there's no way he was going to be becoming world champion. But they made you think. They gave you that little bit of
glimmer of hope.
Yeah, it was like, you bastard.
I know. Yeah. It's like as soon as the match was over, you're right. It's like, why were we that excited? It's fucking Santino. He wasn't going to win. But then it was just like, it just kind of goes to show how sometimes WWE can really make moments like so special when that just goes to show.
Yeah, definitely. Lex?
My favourite one has to be the first one, without a shadow of a doubt. The original, the classic, the OG, the Bay, whatever you want to call it.
Brown pants.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels brown pants and really
and
dodgy
short hair.
Short hair, which if you ever read his book, he absolutely hates. The first book, he's like, I absolutely hate it. But yeah, it was just something different. It was something that every single participant in that match could have legitimately held that title and walked out with that title. But it was also Shawn Michaels' massive welcome back party, really. And it was the chance for Shawn Michaels to redeem himself. I'm not crying, you're crying. Yeah.
But so are you. We're all crying.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay to cry.
I've done enough of that in the past 24 hours, Grizz. Let's.
RVD smashed Triple H's throat as well.
Yes, of course.
Was that the one as well where Jericho got put through the bulletproof glass, insert bunny ears? It's blatantly fucking acrylic, blatantly. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, just that moment, you knew that it wasn't bulletproof glass, but that moment, literally everyone came unglued at that moment. If you haven't seen it, seriously, go check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Check it out.
Dude, what's yours?
Yeah, Lexi's pretty much said it all. It was always going to be the first one for me. Me and a couple of mates watched it in a Riley's, which everyone remembers that if they're still around as a snooze club, but they would occasionally show like pay-per-views on it. So that was really nice watching that, a few beers in hand. And yeah, we didn't know what to expect. You know, it was something new, and I still remember like the Eric Bischoff led like promo where he was really selling it, and I was like, oh, it sounds amazing. And it was something truly different. And the countdown, it had a little bit of the Rumble in it, a little bit of Hell in Cell in it. You know, it was a nice amalgamation of those two gimmicks. Yes, you had the shit brown tights, the Dutch boy haircut, RVD frog slash on Triple H's poor throat. Jericho, and in his book he talked about just how ridiculous it was, like landing on that, you know, chain link around the outside, and they didn't really know themselves, and I think that's why it was so great. It was a good winner in Shawn, and yeah, like you said, that was his kind of moment of redemption after his street fight before with Triple H. And it set up a lot of stuff, and looking back, like you tend to go, wow, look at the talent that was in that match as well at the time. You know, there was a lot of massive names. So yeah, clearly my favorite. I don't really have a worse one, probably just some of the more recent ones that have seen a bit more forgettable, to be fair, but I haven't really seen a lot of them in the last couple of years. But yeah, it's still a match, obviously, that captures the imagination, isn't it? And if you was to see it again as a mainstream fan, you would be like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Is this gonna air tomorrow or Tuesday? Just before I give my answer.
Oh,
do we know it's gonna air after the chamber, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My favourite chamber is this year's, when Randy Orton's pod gets filled up with goo and the Fiend makes his return.
I like that.
So, sounds a bit like Get Your Own Back or something.
Yes, mate.
Yeah, you both covered both top two moments. The Santino thing for me was absolutely just for that a moment of investment where you actually found yourself rooting for Santino to be world champion. It's freaking mental. And yeah, you just can't beat the first one. Just to tell you, just purely because RVD was in there as well, and I'm a massive RVD mark. So
I just quickly mention though, after it was New Year's Revolution, but was it after a chamber match where Edge cashed in the very first
Revolution?
New Year's Revolution, and that was a chamber match, right? Was that? No, it wasn't. No, I'm getting
it was, yeah.
A chamber match. Okay. In that case, that moment for me, you know, yes, it wasn't in the match itself, but that is an absolute standout all-time moment for me. So yeah, just a little shout out to Edge, who's obviously very much back in the news.
I'll shout out then.
His place in another one. He took somebody's spot in the chamber, didn't he? He lost the first one and then took somebody's spot in the second one.
That's true. He did. The ultimate opportunist. There he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry.
So I was just saying, Edge is the ultimate opportunist when it comes to chambers.
Yeah. Going from the ultimate opportunist then to the ultimate organizer, can we just do a shout out once again to Dolph Ziggler for the match that he pretty much directed on the fly because it all went a bit wrong.
In front of everybody.
Because Mark Henry came out of his pod a little bit too early because someone went through it. And you can clearly see he's there, and Ziggler's literally just barking orders at everyone. Hilarious if you get to see it, and it just shows how talented that man is. So there you go.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely agree. The worst one for me would be the Triple H Goldberg squash chamber, as I will call it.
Oh, that one was excellent.
I just hated Triple H at that point. Not even because he was meant to be a heel. I just despised the guy. He's redeemed himself since, but at that point, I remember just physically detesting him.
Was that one where... No. What was the one where HBK came up through the bottom and super kicked Taker? I can't remember which one that was.
World title one, where Jericho won.
Oh, okay.
I think that was a couple of years after the Goldberg one.
Yeah, that was a nice moment as well. You know, there's opportunity to make some pretty special moments with that cage.
It's when Jericho looked like Gordon Ramsay, wasn't it? Jericho.
Yes.
Oh, the Ramsay Jericho. I forgot about that in our mini.
It's Monday Night Raw.
Nice.
Very nice.
I'm here all week. Like literally, I just sit here all week on Skype, hoping people will come on and talk to me.
Nice, good work if you can get it, man.
I feel like one of the worst ones for me is the one that Ken Alexi mentioned, the Intercontinental title chamber, purely for the fact that everything went so wrong that Dolph Ziggler had to be like, okay, you go over there and you go over there, and then you two attack each other, and then we'll fight each other, and then we'll come in. And it's like, you are aware we can hear you, right?
Kayfabe damned.
At least in that moment, he was actually taking charge because everybody else had deer in the headlights, and they were just like, "Shit, what do we do? Shit, do something."
Standing there in the corner, like, God, I'm hungry.
I wonder what I'm going to eat after this match.
How much you betting that Ziggler got in trouble for that shit though? As much as we're praising him for doing it, but Vinnie Mac lost his shit because he was you could hear him, dictating.
Yeah. You got to do it, haven't you? You got to do it. I agree. It's a lot of shit, but he did the right thing. That ring general in there. Sometimes.
But then again, picking up on that though, one of the greatest matches of all time, one of the ladder matches between between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. You can actually hear Shawn Michaels before the start of the match say, "Listen, boss, we're not tall enough to reach that. You need to make it lower." And that was at the time when Vince McMahon wasn't Mr. McMahon. He was just the commentator. So, sometimes these things just have to be done.
Yeah.
They do, but I think it depends who does them as well as to whether they get arse kicked for it. Michaels could pretty much say, "I'll do whatever he wanted," and there would be no punishment. Ziggler did the right thing without a doubt. But whether Vinnie Mac would have seen it that way.
Well, yeah.
Oh. So probably never got a shot again. Maybe it's why he's...
Yeah. Any more worst ofs?
I think I've mentally blocked him.
Yeah, I think I have as well.
There was one that had Great Khali and Big Daddy V in it.
Shit, was that the ECW one?
No, that wasn't. It was during that time where SmackDown and ECW had a working relationship. And I think Undertaker was in there as well, and Taker actually looked good in the match. So, but the match itself just wasn't great because of the people involved.
Well, one of the worst ones technically then has got to be December to Dismember or whatever it was.
Yeah.
ECW pay-per-view that ended in the EC because it's the worst pay-per-view ever after House of Hardcore, whatever it's called. So that just by association, it's got to be the worst Elimination Chamber match.
I can't even remember who's in it.
It wasn't even that bad.
It was Bobby Lashley, Big Show, CM Punk,
RVD,
No.
RVD, Hardcore Holly, and Test.
mentally blocked it out.
Yeah,
they won it eventually.
Sabu was meant to be in the match, and they found him backstage during the pay-per-view. Yeah. And then they're like, "Oh, Sabu's injured. Put in Hardcore Holly," and it's like, wow, like, what are the 3 people that we wanted to win and gets taken out before the match even starts? And it's Sabu. I don't believe that Sabu can be knocked out.
But yeah, the original plan was for Punk just to beat everybody with the Anaconda Vice.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. That, and obviously Bobby Lashley went through.
Bobby Lashley.
For fuck's sake.
But yeah, by default, that's got to be the worst one. That's that. Done.
Well, kind of nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I would argue that I don't think that show's as bad as people make it out to be.
No, it's remembered for various reasons, isn't it? You know, like you said, like the quality itself of it probably wasn't that bad, but it's just it came at a point where no one had any more time for the newly born ECW, which was worse than the first one. Well, it wasn't bad at all, of course, but you know what I mean? Yeah, it just was a zenith, wasn't it? And that was it. That was the straw that broke the Paul Heyman camel back that night. Oh, and almost. And yeah, it was a beautiful disaster. You know, so yeah, I look back on it fondly for those reasons.
Yeah. But what could have been? Because does everyone know what Shane McMahon wanted to do with the ECW Resurrection?
He wanted it to be on the internet.
Oh,
full circle.
Frozen. Sorry.
Oh.
Go on.
Yeah, it wanted to be on the internet, on WWE.com, and it be because I think it was this was kind of the time where like there was a lot of restrictions on stuff you can do, like blading and that kind of thing. So if it was on the internet, you would have a bit more free reign.
Yeah, I mean, just for those of you that are listening, Nick's phone genuinely has died, so thanks, appreciate it. We've got it from here, lads. But yeah, rumour has it Shane McMahon. Yeah, rumour has it Shane McMahon wanted to get it online only because of what you could do, and it would have been on what is the precursor to the network. Yeah. I just think he's ahead of his time in that idea. It'd be interesting to see,
doesn't it? Yeah, NXT ended up being almost the show that evolved out of that, you know, and like ended up online for some time. So it's really interesting. He was ahead of his time so many ways. But you're right, I didn't really think about the restrictions and what you could have got away with. It's a really interesting point. And nowadays you've got streaming platforms where you can get away with a lot more stuff like Netflix, you know. So I'd love to see a show streamed, you know, on a platform like that, because you could really get away with some pretty wacky stuff on there, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, if they really wanted to take Shane's idea and run, bring it back now and put it on the network. I'm pretty certain there would be people that would watch it just out of sheer, you know, morbid curiosity.
Oh yeah, Underground. I was just about to say, yeah, Raw Underground again, proving that he is trying to think outside the box, you know, and yeah, that's the kind of thing that belongs in a certain box, and maybe that box is online, you know, and I think there is room to, not to go back to my Marvel analogy earlier, but I was just saying, like, with these new shows on Disney Plus now, they're bringing something different, and there's room for a bit of everything, isn't there, in the wrestling world, as we always say. And I think WWE needs to keep that diversity through brands and through what they put on. And yeah, why not do something completely different? You know, if the audience is there, when it's online, you can do what the hell you want. It's a testing ground, you know. And we've seen it with like even streaming things like iPlayer and BBC Three and E4 in the UK. You know, you can do whatever you want almost to see how it sticks. So yeah, and that's what they need to bring this back to the new developmental brand of NXT. Hopefully they will have that, so they can try some wacky shit out and see what sticks.
Yeah, I like that.
Bring back Lucha Underground.
Lucha Raw Underground.
No.
So Johnny Underground is the new champ.
Johnny Raw.
Johnny Raw. I like that.
I'm not saying anything.
Oh jeez, just during his time away from WWE when it's like, Johnny, insert name of company here.
I quite like that. He's a journeyman and his name has been changed so many times, you know. Yeah, there you go. Good old Johnny X name. Yeah.
Johnny Turnbuckle arms.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Oh,
well,
Where does that bring us to the end?
I think that kind of brings us to the end of the show at this point. We have done the talks about the wrestles, and it's my least favourite part of the episode where we have to shut shop, shut the bar, taps are off now, and we all need to go home and get a kebab and then pass out in it or something.
Time for us to stagger home with our opinions and little dignity left.
What are you trying to say about dignity, lad?
Or probably in our case, we'll stagger home, and instead of singing, which some drunk people tend to do, and I've never been drunk enough to just start singing at the top of my lungs while walking down the street, but I would imagine with us, it'd probably be more the case of just like, you know what? Shinsuke Nakamura should have beat AJ Styles for the WWE title at WrestleMania. I'm telling you, like, it's ridiculous. And then someone walks past me, it's like, it's ridiculous. Shinsuke Nakamura, and then they start running away. And they're like, she must have been an AJ Styles fan. Typical.
I'm not even going there, because 9 times out of 10, if I'm drunk and with certain people, we start like cutting promos on each other.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, I'm not even going into it. Or if it's the case of me and a mate of mine, he always does the Hulk Hogan point and you. I never understood why he does it. He just stands there and goes, you, and I'm like, shit. So yeah, can you imagine if we ever like get together though?
Oh Jesus,
could be messy.
Yeah,
especially us three. Us three will probably be like sitting there until all hours in the morning. Try like, no, you go home first. No, you go home first.
And there's me just being like, I'll sleep on the train. It's all right, lad. I've done it before.
Been there, done that.
Yep, been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. Anyway, on that note, guys, on behalf of Nick, because this is Nick's very first episode, and we were just having too much fun that his phone died. So on behalf of Nick, thank you for listening. As always, you can catch us on socials. If you just search for the Turnbuckle Arms podcast, you'll find us. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. We'll put links down to them in the description probably. Johnny Mauer, can you make sure that happens, please? So yeah, on behalf of the Turnbuckle Arms, I've been Lexi Helms.
I've been Chucky T.
And I've been The Grizz.
And of course, the Tower of Power, Nick, who's no longer with us. But thank you so much for listening. Until next time, stay safe, don't be a dick, watch pro wrestling. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Our friends over at Powered 4 TV are giving listeners to this podcast an incredible 50% off your first month when you sign up to powered4.tv and use the promo code JONAS. Powered 4 TV are one of the leading on-demand streaming services in the UK, with tons of shows from over 20 wrestling promotions from around the UK and the US, including TNT Extreme, Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, DNA Pro Wrestling, Full Force Wrestling, Ignite Wrestling, and so many more. There's also plenty more to enjoy, including an incredible archive of classic matches, live layers with William Eva, podcasts, and so much more. Sign up to Powered 4 TV today and save 50% off your first month. Just use the promo code JONAS.